Assalamu alaikum students, my name is Umaira Said, lecture English, Times Institute. So today we are going to deliver the lecture of basic communication skills for the students who are dealing with the English comprehensive and composition. Now starting with communication. What actually communication is? There is not a particular definition of communication, and every author and every lecturer, even every speaker has his own definition of communication. It based on one's own experience, one's own knowledge. So basically the communication is derived from Latin word communis, which means to share. It means that communication is the mutual understanding. Communication is to share. To share what? To share thought, emotion, ideas from one person to another person, from one place to another place. So it means that communication is not a single process. It is not a unidirectional process. It is a two-way process. Suppose if I am speaking and you, the students on the other side of the screen, if noted like saying yes to me, giving me the feedback that the communication process is completed. Suppose if you are silent in the class or somewhere else and you are not responding to me, it means that the communication is unidirectional and it will be one-sided and it will be stopped. So communication is to share your ideas and emotions. So many of the students generally ask that what is human communication, then what about the animals communication? Yes, animals communicate, but they have the different modes of communication. While the birds are chirping, it is a communication. If they are in danger, they will communicate while producing some different sounds. So animals communicate as well, but they do not use the words like the humans. Now coming to the next point, that is the types of communication. The types of communication is the verbal communication, the non-verbal communication, the formal communication, informal communication, upward communication, downward communication and horizontal communication. So what is the verbal communication? It is very much explicit and very much obvious that the communication in which the words are used, in which you are communicating, in which you are delivering your ideas is said to be the verbal communication. Non-verbal communication, the non-verbal communication obviously where there are no words are used, but non-verbal communication is a vast topic. The time, silence and space are included in the non-verbal communication, and in the coming lectures we will discuss it in detail. So what non-verbal communication generally is, like your facial expressions, your gestures, your postures while sitting, the way you are sitting in the class. Sometimes the most of the psychologists say that the dresses, the color of the dresses you are wearing, the nail paint you are applying on your nails, and sometimes if you have a long beard, if you have a sparkling colors, if you are happy, if you are sad, so these all are the non-verbal communication. What is the formal communication? The formal communication is when you formally the words used, like if you are going for an interview, if you are going for a formal meeting, if you are going to talk with your bosses, with your principals, with your teachers, the words you are using, the sentence structures are said to be the formal communication. What is informal communication? Informal, when you are communicating with your friends, your family, your relatives, and the jokes you are sharing with each other, the slang sometimes, that is said to be the informal language where there is no formality required. What is upward communication? Sometimes the communication from the student to the principals or some to the lower staff to the higher staff, when the message is disseminated, is said to be the upward communication. And what is the downward communication? The communication in which the message is being disseminated from the higher staff is to the lower staff, or some from the principals to the students, or from the principals to the peons, or sometimes from the higher management to the lower management is said to be the downward communication. What is horizontal communication? The horizontal communication, the communication or the message which is being disseminated to the people of the same level. Suppose if a teacher announces a test in the class and the CR or the GR used to send you the message, or you used to get the information that tomorrow will be the test in the class, that is said to be the horizontal communication. There are many modes of communication, by the way. If I say that when the child comes into the world, he starts sleeping, it is a mode of communication. And suppose it is generally said that if you want to talk to your creator, offer prayers, and if you need that your creator, your Lord talks to you, so recite Holy Quran. There are many other modes of communication as well, like there are primitive ways. In the previous ages, the people used to beat the drum to disseminate the message, to communicate from one person to another person, or to deliver the message on the larger scale. So that is said to be the another mode of communication. There are different types and kinds of communication as well, like interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication is when the communication is between the two persons. Suppose if I am communicating to you, it is interpersonal communication. If you are communicating with your friends, with your parents, with your teacher, that is said to be the interpersonal communication. What is intrapersonal communication? The intrapersonal communication is, as Shakespeare named it, soliloquy, like when something is unforced to you, when you talk to yourself, when sometimes you are like threading a plan in your mind, that is the interpersonal communication. What is extrapersonal communication? The extrapersonal communication is when you have some nostalgic memories, when you develop some association with the buildings, like due to these pandemic days you are away from your campuses, and sometimes when from the passing roads you see your campus, you have some association developed, you start talking with the building of your institute. Oh, I have a very wonderful time here, so I want to join my institute back. So that kind of an association is said to be the extrapersonal communication. You know, sometimes we used to develop a very much in love with our old clothes, with our old books, even with our old certificates. So that development, that association is said to be the extrapersonal communication. Now move to a very important thing, that is the communication model, and it is important to mention that this model is also very much pivotal for your examination point of view. How the communication happens? We have a sender, suppose I am a sender and the receiver, you people are the receivers. I am encoding a message. Encoding means that I am preparing a message and then I composed a message and I am sending the message to the receivers. And who are the receivers? The receivers are you. You are understanding the messages, and you then again after getting the message understand that, again encode or compose the message in the form of feedback and send me back, and this is the communication model. There are more important thing is the channel, that through which channel you are communicating. Either you are communicating via words, you are communicating via spoken language, you are communicating via some letters or some visual words. So that is said to be the communication. There are some gatekeepers as well. So what are the gatekeepers? These are the scrutinized, that if your message are able to be received by another person or not. So these are the some scrutinized. Sometimes while communicating with the females, we cannot, like the males cannot use the jargons or the language they generally use with each other. So these gatekeepers help you to again revise your language. So this is called the communication model. The feedback is very important. As I mentioned earlier, that if you are not going to feedback to the receiver, feedback to the sender, your messages or your communication model is not going to be completed. Now the last thing, that what should be the qualities of a good communicator? Yes, there are few basic qualities which a big and a good communicator must have. Number one, he or she must have command over language, and he or she must have the leadership qualities as well. He or she must know how to impart the knowledge, how to lead the team. One must have an ability to have to take the decision that is said to be the qualities of good communicator. So this was all for today. Inshallah, see you tomorrow with another topic. Thank you so much.